She shouldn't have done this. A humble waitress in a luxury restaurant answered a call in Chinese in front of a millionaire. For her, it was just another conversation. But for him, it was a devastating secret that should never have come to light. The next day, something unthinkable happened. Unthinkable. The clatter of silverware against fine china filled the elegant dining room of the Gilded Spoon, Manhattan's newest five-star restaurant. Maya Hayes maneuvered between tables with practiced grace, her black uniform blending into the background exactly as management intended. The wealthy patrons barely glanced at her as she refilled water glasses and replaced napkins, her existence acknowledged only when needed. "Another bottle of the Chateau Lafite for table 12, she whispered to André the sommelier as she passed the bar. "And Mr. Henderson at table 7 says his steak is overcooked." André rolled his eyes. Again. That man would send back a steak in heaven. Maya managed a tired smile. Days that began at 5 a.m. caring for her mother before an evening shift left little energy for banter. Her phone vibrated in her pocket. The hospital again. She'd have to check it soon. The restaurant door swung open, and the manager's posture immediately stiffened. "Ethan Sterling," he hissed to the staff. "Table 1. Everything perfect." Maya froze momentarily at the name. Ethan Sterling, CEO of Sterling Enterprises. The same Sterling that formed half of her own surname. Pure coincidence, she told herself for the 100th time. Sterling was a common enough name. She watched as the maitre d' escorted him and his party to the prime table overlooking Central Park. Even without knowing who he was, anyone could tell he commanded power. Tall with sharp features, softened only by piercing blue eyes. He moved with the confidence of someone who'd never worried about rent payments or medical bills. A woman clung to his arm, diamonds glittering at her throat and wrists. Olivia Prescott, Maya remembered from the society pages, daughter of Sterling Enterprises' biggest investor and Ethan's fiancé. Behind them followed a man with a serious expression, clutching a leather portfolio. Maya was assigned to their section. Unfortunately, wealthy businessmen were the worst tippers, especially when dining with beautiful women they wanted to impress with their importance. "Good evening," she said, approaching with menus. "Welcome to the Gilded Spoon. May I start you with something to drink?" Ethan Sterling barely glanced up, his attention on his companion. "The 2005 Dom Perignon, Arthur." The serious man nodded. "Excellent choice." Olivia Prescott's eyes flickered over Maya with practiced dismissal. "And sparkling water, room temperature." Maya nodded and retreated, feeling the familiar sting of invisibility. By the time she returned with their champagne, they were deep in conversation. "The Apex Global deal is slipping away," the man called Arthur was saying. "With Chen in the hospital." Ethan raised a hand, stopping him as Maya approached with the champagne. She served them silently, years of training allowing her to pour without dripping a single drop as she set down Olivia's sparkling water. Her phone vibrated again, longer this time. 3 buzzes, emergency. "Excuse me," Maya said, steps already carrying her toward the kitchen. "I'll send someone else to take your order." "Wait," Ethan said, his tone making it clear he wasn't accustomed to servers walking away. "We haven't ordered yet." "I apologize, sir," Maya said, her hand already reaching for her phone. "Family emergency." Before anyone could protest, she slipped into the service corridor and answered. "Miss Hayes." Patel's voice was tense. "Your mother's having an episode. The experimental medication isn't working as expected. We need your consent for a different protocol." Maya closed her eyes, leaning against the wall. "What are the risks?" "Similar to the current treatment, but potentially more effective for her particular cardiac arrhythmia." "Cost?" Hesitation. "About 30% more. 30% more than what already consumed every penny of her savings." "Do it," she said, the words sticking in her throat. "I'll figure something out. We need you to sign." "I'll be there after my shift," she said. "Please just start now." She can't just start the treatment. After receiving confirmation, Maya took a deep breath and returned to the dining room. She'd have to grovel to keep this job now, but it paid better than anywhere else with her partial college education. To her surprise, the Sterling party was still waiting, Ethan checking his watch with obvious irritation. "I apologize for the delay," she began. His cold stare cut her off. "We've waited long enough. We'll order now." Maya nodded, pulling out her notepad as she took their complicated orders. Olivia's salad with 6 specific modifications, Arthur's dietary restrictions, Ethan's rare steak. Her phone vibrated again. "I'm sorry," she whispered, glancing at the screen. Not the hospital this time, but a number with a Chinese country code. Her language study partner in Beijing, probably wondering why she'd missed their scheduled practice session. She declined the call, but moments later it rang again. With an apologetic glance at the increasingly irritated table, she saw the same number. "Emily must have an emergency," she murmured, turning slightly away. "Excuse me one moment." Before Ethan could object, she answered in flawless Mandarin. "Wei, this isn't a good time." The voice on the other end cut her off, rapid-fire Mandarin describing some kind of business crisis. Maya frowned. "I think you have the wrong number," she replied in the same language. "I'm not involved in any technology licensing negotiations." The caller became more insistent, mentioning contract terms and deadlines. "Look," Maya said firmly, still in perfect Mandarin. "I don't know who you're trying to reach, but I'm a student who works as a waitress. I don't have access to semiconductor patents or whatever you're talking about." She ended the call, turning back to find all 3 diners staring at her with expressions ranging from surprise to calculation. "I'm so sorry," she said, switching effortlessly back to English. "Wrong number from China. May I repeat your orders to confirm?" Ethan Sterling was looking at her differently now, really seeing her for the first time. "You speak Mandarin." It wasn't a question. "Yes," she answered simply. "Not just conversational Mandarin. Business Mandarin, technical Mandarin." Maya shifted uncomfortably. "I was a linguistics major before I had to leave school. Chinese languages are my specialty." "Interesting," Ethan said, exchanging glances with Arthur. "Very interesting." The rest of their meal passed normally, though Maya felt Ethan's eyes following her movements. As they finished dessert, he requested the check and handed her his business card. "Sterling Enterprises, my office, 9 a.m. tomorrow," he said. "We have a proposition for you." Maya stared at the card. "I have another job in the mornings." "Cancel it," he said, standing to leave. "This will be worth your time." After they departed, Maya clutched the card, mind racing. A job at Sterling Enterprises could mean proper healthcare for her mother, finishing her degree someday. But working for the family whose name she shared by coincidence. The universe had a twisted sense of humor. Her phone rang again. This time it was Dr. Alan Coleman, her mother's specialist doctor with connections to experimental treatments. Her stomach nodded. "Dr. Coleman," she answered quietly. "Maya," his smooth voice replied. "I understand there's been a change in your mother's treatment today. Perfect timing, actually. I could use your help with something small." She closed her eyes, knowing what was coming. "What do you need?" she asked, already guessing the answer had something to do with the business card burning a hole in her pocket. The Sterling Enterprises tower pierced the Manhattan skyline like a glass dagger. Maya stood at its base, clutching her worn leather bag, watching people in tailored suits stream through revolving doors. After a sleepless night at her mother Carol's hospital bedside, she felt woefully underprepared in her only pencil skirt and department store blazer. "This is insane," she muttered, checking her reflection in the mirrored exterior. Her dark hair was pulled back in a practical bun, her olive complexion washed out by fluorescent hospital lighting. She didn't belong here. But her mother's new treatment protocol cost $12,000 per month. Coleman had made it clear, no special arrangements without special favors. Squaring her shoulders, Maya pushed through the revolving door into the marble-floored lobby. "I'm here to see Mr. Sterling," she told the security desk. "Maya Hayes." The guard raised an eyebrow at her, but made the call. Minutes later, she was escorted into an express elevator that shot straight to the 58th floor. Arthur Vance waited when the doors opened. He looked even more severe in daylight. His thin lips pressed into a perpetual line of disapproval. "Miss Hayes, follow me." He led her through an open workspace where conversations hushed as they passed. Maya felt eyes on her back, assessing, wondering. At the end of the corridor stood a glass-walled conference room where Ethan Sterling stood silhouetted against the city vista. "Our potential interpreter," Arthur announced, gesturing Maya inside. Ethan turned, his expression unreadable today. He wore a charcoal suit that probably cost more than her yearly rent. "Miss Hayes, thank you for coming." Maya nodded, clutching her bag tighter. "Your proposition." A slight smile touched his lips. "Direct." "I appreciate that." He gestured to a chair. "Please sit." Maya perched on the edge of the seat while Ethan remained standing, hands clasped behind his back in a posture that screamed military background. "I'll be equally direct," he said. "Our head interpreter, Chen, suffered a stroke yesterday morning. He's stable but unable to work. We have a critical negotiation with a Chinese corporation called Apex Global next week." "Billions are at stake," Arthur interrupted. "Several translation agencies have failed our security clearance. Professional interpreters require weeks of preparation for technical terminology. But you," Ethan continued, "demonstrated remarkable fluency last night with specialized vocabulary." Arthur ran a background check. "You what?" Maya interjected. "Standard procedure," Arthur said smoothly. "Former linguistics student at University of Chicago. Specialized in Chinese dialects, nearly perfect scores. Left before completing your degree when your mother became ill." Maya's face burned. "That's private information." "Not when you're considering working for Sterling Enterprises," Ethan replied. "We need someone who understands both Mandarin and business terminology. Someone discreet, without ties to our competitors." "What exactly are you offering?" Maya asked. Ethan sat across from her. $10,000 for 2 weeks' work. $5,000 now. 5 upon successful completion. Maya's breath caught. $10,000. Almost enough for a month of her mother's treatment. "What would I be doing?" "Accompany me to Beijing next week. Interpret during negotiations. Review documents. Ensure nothing gets lost in translation." He leaned forward. "If successful, we could discuss a permanent position." Sounded too good to be true. Probably was. "Why me?" "There must be dozens of qualified interpreters in New York. The Apex Global negotiation is extremely confidential. Their CEO insists on minimal personnel. You have no connections to the industry that might create conflicts of interest. Except for Alan Coleman, but they didn't know that." "When would I start?" "Today." "Now," Ethan said. "We have a week to prepare you for the technical aspects." Maya thought of her mother, alone in the hospital. Of Coleman's veiled threats about interruptions to experimental treatments if she didn't cooperate. "I need time in the mornings to visit my mother," she said. Something flickered across Ethan's face. Annoyance. Compassion. "Accommodable. Arthur will handle your paperwork." Questions. Dozens, but none she could ask. "No. Welcome aboard, Ms. Hayes." Olivia Prescott's corner office at Prescott Investments overlooked Central Park. She drummed manicured nails on her glass desk, watching her assistant fidget. "Tell me again about this interpreter," she said. The assistant consulted her tablet. Maya Hayes, age 26, former student at University of Chicago, dropped out 3 years ago when her mother, Carol Hayes, was diagnosed with a rare heart condition. Works mornings at Riverside Care Facility and evenings at the Gilded Spoon. "Hayes," Olivia repeated. "Coincidence?" "We're looking into family connections, but nothing obvious. Her mother is Carol Hayes, former accountant. Olivia frowned. Something nagged at her memory. Where did they live before New York? Chicago. Before that, records are sparse. Keep digging. I want everything. Medical records, bank statements, old yearbooks. May I ask why this waitress warrants such attention? Olivia smiled coldly. Because Ethan has never looked at a serving girl the way he looked at her last night, 3 months before our wedding. I find that concerning. The assistant paled. Of course. I'll have more information by tomorrow. Sooner. After the assistant scurried away, Olivia picked up her phone. Ryan, it's Olivia. Have you heard about Ethan's new interpreter? She paused, listening. You have. Interesting. Drinks later. I value your perspective on company matters. Maya sat in a small office surrounded by Mandarin dictionaries and technical documents. Her head throbbed. 8 hours of drilling semiconductor terminology would exhaust anyone, but she'd started the day at 5 a.m. at her mother's bedside. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unlisted number. Progress report. Coleman. He typed back, hired. Starting preparations today. His response came immediately. Good. Remember our arrangement. Your mother's treatment arrives tomorrow. Requires my personal approval. The threat wasn't subtle. Maya deleted the conversation and returned to memorizing negotiation phrases. A knock interrupted her. A young man with Ethan's blue eyes but softer features stood in the doorway. His smile tentative. You must be our miracle interpreter, he said. I'm Ryan Sterling, the less intimidating brother. Maya stood, extending her hand. Maya Hayes. No relation, at least not that I know of. Ryan's handshake was warm, his gaze curious. Hayes, interesting coincidence. Was it her imagination, or did his eyes linger on her face, searching for something? Arthur has you cramming technical jargon, I see, he said, glancing at her materials. Ethan can be intense about preparations. It's fine. I need to be ready. Ryan leaned against the doorframe. You know, your name seemed familiar. I was reviewing some old company files recently. Hayes isn't an uncommon name, but Arthur Vance appeared suddenly, his expression stormy. Ryan, didn't realize you were in today. Ryan straightened, something unspoken passing between the men. Just welcoming our new team member. Don't let me interrupt your preparations. He nodded to Maya and departed, leaving an odd tension behind. Arthur watched him go, then turned to Maya. Mr. Sterling requires your presence in his office. We're strategizing dinner conversation topics. The Chinese place great importance on personal relationships. As she gathered her notes, Maya wondered about Ryan's unfinished sentence. What old company files had her name? And why had Arthur interrupted so abruptly? Outside, rain began streaking the windows, mirroring her internal unease. She was now allied with 3 dangerous men. Ethan Sterling, who could fire her on a whim, Alan Coleman, who controlled her mother's treatment, and possibly Ryan Sterling, whose curious recognition suggested complications she couldn't begin to imagine. Her phone buzzed again. Coleman. Need intel on Apex global negotiations by Friday. Nothing traceable. The rain intensified, hammering against glass 60 stories above Manhattan, where secrets and power intertwined like strands of a spider's web, and Maya had just walked straight into the center. The Sterling Enterprises archive room smelled of dust and secrets. Located 3 levels below the main lobby, it housed decades of corporate history in rows of filing cabinets and acid-free boxes. Few people ventured here in the digital age, which made it perfect for Maya's clandestine research. Her security badge shouldn't have granted her access, but she discovered the archives weren't included in the restricted areas list, an oversight she intended to exploit. With Ethan and Arthur occupied in board meetings, she had precisely 45 minutes. Maya moved through the dimly lit rows, scanning labels. The administrative assistant had mentioned that personnel records from before 2010 hadn't been fully digitized. If there was any connection between her mother and Sterling Enterprises, it would be here. Her fingers trailed along cabinet handles until she found it. Accounting Department, 1995 to 2005. Her heart quickened. Carol Hayes had worked as an accountant somewhere in New York during that period before relocating to Chicago when Maya was a child. The timing aligned too perfectly to ignore. The drawer slid open with a metallic groan. Inside, folders were arranged alphabetically. Maya flipped through them with trembling fingers. Harrison, Harvey, Haskins, Hayes. She pulled the folder, its weight substantial. Inside was a personnel file with a younger version of her mother smiling in the attached photo. Carol Hayes, Senior Financial Analyst, 1998 to 2004. "Oh my God," Maya whispered. Her mother had worked for Sterling Enterprises for 6 years and had never once mentioned it. She scanned the employment history. Carol had been hired under Robert Sterling's leadership, Ethan's father, and had risen quickly through the ranks. Exemplary performance reviews until 2004, when everything changed. The final pages contained newspaper clippings. Sterling Enterprises recovers from financial scandal. Former accountant accused of $37 million fraud. Robert Sterling dies of heart attack following company crisis. Maya's blood turned to ice as she read the accusations. According to these records, Carol Hayes had orchestrated a complex embezzlement scheme, then disappeared with millions when discovered. The scandal had allegedly triggered Robert Sterling's fatal heart attack. "This can't be right," Maya muttered. Her mother, who clipped coupons and worked double shifts to make ends meet, a multi-million-dollar embezzler. The woman who had instilled in Maya an almost fanatical honesty. A date caught her eye. The alleged theft occurred just weeks before they moved to Chicago and changed their phone number, before her mother started using her maiden name for everything except legal documents. They'd been running. Maya photographed the documents with shaking hands, then carefully replaced the folder. As she turned to leave, another cabinet caught her attention. Executive Files, R. Sterling, Confidential. Glancing at her watch, 20 minutes left, she hesitated, then moved toward it. The drawer required a key she didn't have, but years of barely making rent had taught her useful skills. With a paperclip from her pocket, she manipulated the simple lock until it clicked. Inside was a thinner file labeled Operation Clean Slate. She opened it to find financial records, offshore account numbers, and a list of names. Her mother's was among them alongside Thorne. A name Maya didn't recognize, but that sounded vaguely familiar from business news. Before she could read further, a voice cut through the silence. "Finding anything interesting?" Maya spun around, heart hammering. Ryan Sterling stood in the doorway, arms crossed, expression unreadable. "I was just researching Chinese business customs," she stammered, trying to slide the folder back without being obvious. Ryan stepped closer. "In my father's confidential files." She froze. "I can explain." "I'm sure you can. Carol Hayes's daughter." The words hung between them like a drawn weapon. Maya's mind raced through escape scenarios, calculating how quickly she could reach the door. Ryan raised his hands. "I'm not here to expose you." "Then why are you here?" He sighed, glancing around the archive room. "Same reason as you, I suspect. Looking for truth in old paper." "You knew who I was the moment you met me." Ryan nodded. "You have her eyes. And the timing of your appearance seemed significant." "Significant how?" "Ethan preparing to take the company public. The Apex Global deal potentially worth billions. And suddenly a Hayes with connections to our biggest corporate scandal shows up speaking perfect Mandarin." He shook his head. "I don't believe in coincidences that convenient." "I didn't know," Maya said quietly, "about any of this. My mother never told me she worked here." Ryan studied her, seeming to weigh her sincerity. "You had no idea your mother was accused of stealing $37 million and indirectly causing my father's death?" No, Maya whispered. We've always struggled financially. If she had millions, you wouldn't be working as a waitress to pay for her medical treatments, Ryan finished. Which means either she hid the money very well or she didn't take it, Maya concluded. Ryan was silent for a moment. That possibility has occurred to me over the years. Why would you doubt the official story? He leaned against a filing cabinet. Because I was 17 when it happened. Old enough to notice things didn't add up. Carol was meticulous, conservative in her accounting. The scheme she supposedly orchestrated was flashy, high risk. And she left evidence so obvious a first-year auditor found it. Hope flickered in Maya's chest. You think she was framed? I think there's more to the story. He nodded toward the file she'd been examining. What did you find in there? Maya hesitated, then handed him the folder. Operation Clean Slate. My mother's name is listed alongside someone called Thorne. Ryan's eyebrows rose as he scanned the contents. These are transfer authorizations to Cayman accounts, signed by my father and Arthur Vance. Arthur. Ethan's right-hand man. Arthur was my father's right-hand man first. He practically raised Ethan after our mother died, Ryan explained. When I questioned the accusations against Carol back then, Arthur was the one who showed me the irrefutable evidence of her guilt. Why would he frame my mother? I don't know. But Arthur has always been obsessively protective of the Sterling legacy. Ryan checked his watch. We need to get out of here. Arthur monitors the archive room access logs weekly. Maya quickly photographed the remaining documents while Ryan returned the folders to their proper places. What will you tell Ethan? She asked as they headed for the exit. Nothing for now. If I'm right, and our pasts are connected in ways we don't fully understand, revealing your identity could put you in danger. He held the door for her. Why are you really here, Maya? At Sterling Enterprises. She thought of Coleman, of her mother's treatments, of the mounting hospital bills. I needed the job. Just coincidence that you applied right when we needed a Mandarin interpreter? I didn't apply. Ethan recruited me after hearing me speak at the restaurant. Ryan's expression darkened. Convenient timing. What are you suggesting? Nothing yet. But be careful around Arthur. He's been jumpy since the Apex Global negotiations began. Ryan hesitated. If you find anything else or if you're worried, call me. Not Ethan. Why are you helping me? Ryan's smile was tinged with sadness. Let's just say I've had questions about what happened for 20 years. Maybe you're the catalyst to finally finding answers. They parted ways at the elevator, Maya returning to her temporary office, mind reeling. Her mother accused of a massive financial crime. Their sudden move to Chicago. The mysterious Thorne connected to offshore accounts. And now she was interpreting for a Chinese corporation dealing with the very family her mother had supposedly betrayed, while secretly feeding information to Alan Coleman, who controlled her mother's medical care. The web of connections was too intricate to be coincidental. On her desk, she found a finalized itinerary for Beijing. They would leave in 3 days. Attached was a note in Ethan's precise handwriting. Dinner tonight, 8 p.m. We need to discuss approach strategy. Her phone buzzed with a message from Coleman. Need update on deal structure. Don't forget who keeps your mother breathing. Outside her window, storm clouds gathered over Manhattan, dark and foreboding. Beijing sprawled beneath them, a vast metropolis shrouded in early morning haze. From the window of their 53rd floor hotel suite, Maya watched the city awaken, an ancient dragon stirring in the dawn. After 16 hours in a private jet, her body clock was thoroughly confused, but her mind remained sharp, vigilant. Impressive, isn't it? Ethan appeared beside her, nursing a cup of black coffee. In the 5 days since discovering her mother's connection to Sterling Enterprises, Maya had maintained a careful professional distance from him, harder now in the intimate confines of the presidential suite's shared living area. It's my first time in China, she admitted. I've only studied the language, never experienced the culture firsthand. Ethan nodded. The Forbidden City is visible from here on clear days. Perhaps after the negotiations wrap up, we could tour it. That would be. Maya searched for a non-committal word. Educational. A hint of amusement touched his eyes. You're very guarded. All work, no personal connection. Isn't that more professional? Not with the Chinese, he corrected. Business here is built on relationships, trust. They'll be scrutinizing our interactions, how we communicate with each other. Maya tensed. What are you saying? I'm saying we need to present a united front. Which means you'll need to call me Ethan, smile occasionally, and stop looking like you're calculating escape routes whenever I approach. She flushed, because that's exactly what she'd been doing. I'll work on it, Ethan. His smile transformed his face, softening the sharp angles. Better. Now our first meeting is at 11 o'clock. Apex Global executives will join us for lunch, then preliminary discussions this afternoon. Maya nodded, consulting her tablet. The CEO, Mr. Thorne, will only be present for video conferences, correct? Yes. Apparently. He rarely meets in person until deals are finalized. We'll be working primarily with his deputy, Mr. Zhang. Have you ever seen Mr. Thorne, even on video? Ethan frowned briefly. He keeps his camera dimly lit and wears dark glasses, citing light sensitivity. Arthur thinks it's a negotiating tactic, maintaining mystery. Maya made a note. Something about this elusive CEO nagged at her, though she couldn't articulate why. What should I know about Mr. Zhang? Harvard MBA. Traditional in business, progressive in technology. Respects preparation and punctuality. Ethan hesitated. There's something else you should know. Olivia arrives tomorrow. Maya's stomach tightened. Your fiancé. Why? Officially to represent Prescott Investments' interests in the deal. Unofficially, he sighed. She doesn't trust me in a foreign country with a female interpreter. That's ridiculous. I'm an employee. Olivia has trust issues. Her concern is unnecessary, but we'll need to accommodate her. Maya turned back to the window, hiding her reaction. Olivia's arrival complicated everything. Her information gathering for Coleman, her private investigation into her mother's past, and these unsettling moments of connection with Ethan. I should prepare for the meeting, she said. Ethan checked his watch. Join me for breakfast first. You can practice being less afraid of me. Despite herself, Maya laughed. I'm not afraid of you. No. His eyes held hers. Then what are you afraid of? Everything about this situation, she thought. Out loud, she said, running out of caffeine before the negotiations start. The Apex Global headquarters occupied a gleaming tower of glass and steel in Beijing's financial district. Inside, ancient Chinese art adorned ultramodern spaces, tradition and innovation in perfect balance. Mr. Zhang greeted them warmly in the marble lobby. Mr. Sterling, welcome to Apex Global. And this must be your interpreter, Hayes. Maya translated Ethan's response, adding the appropriate honorifics in Mandarin. Zhang's eyebrows raised slightly, impressed by her fluency. Your Mandarin is excellent, he commented. Where did you study? University of Chicago, she replied in his language. But I've always had an affinity for Chinese dialects. A natural gift, Zhang nodded appreciatively. Mr. Thorne will be pleased. They were escorted to a spacious conference room where lunch awaited, an elaborate spread of regional specialties. As they ate, Zhang kept the conversation light, asking about their flight and accommodations. Maya translated smoothly, maintaining the delicate cultural balance between business and personal connection. Mr. Thorne will join us by video conference after lunch, Zhang explained. He's particularly interested in your semiconductor integration proposal. The screens at the end of the room flickered to life, revealing a dim silhouette. The man wore dark glasses and sat partially in shadow, his features indistinct. Mr. Sterling, a deeply accented voice greeted them. I trust your journey was comfortable. As Maya translated, something about the man's posture struck her as familiar. She stared at the screen, trying to place the recognition. Miss Hayes. Mr. Thorne addressed her directly. Your Mandarin pronunciation is excellent. Northern dialect with academic influence. Very precise. Thank you, she responded, unsettled by his scrutiny. Despite the dark glasses, the meeting progressed through technical specifications and market projections. Maya translated complex technical terms flawlessly, but part of her mind remained fixated on Mr. Thorne. Something about him. When the conference ended 2 hours later, Ethan squeezed her shoulder. Excellent work. They're clearly impressed. Mr. Jiang invited them to dinner that evening at an exclusive restaurant. As they departed the building, Maya noticed a photograph in the lobby. A younger Mr. Thorne receiving an award, his face partially visible beneath smaller sunglasses. She froze, pulse quickening. The curve of his jaw, the set of his mouth. They resembled the few photographs she had of her father, Daniel Hayes, who had died in an accident when she was 5. Maya, Ethan called from the doorway. Everything all right? She tore her gaze away. Yes, just admiring the architecture. Back at the hotel, Maya's phone buzzed with a message from Coleman. Olivia boarding flight to Beijing. She has information about your mother. Proceed with extraction exactly as planned tomorrow. Maya's blood ran cold. Olivia had information about her mother. What kind of information? And how was it connected to Coleman? A knock on her door startled her. She quickly deleted the message before opening it. Ethan stood in the hallway, jacket discarded, tie loosened. Can we talk? Something felt off in that meeting. She let him in, maintaining a professional distance. What do you mean? Thorne focused too much on you. The questions were pointed, personal. I'm just the interpreter. Exactly. Ethan paced the room. Which is why his interest is concerning. Maya chose her words carefully. Perhaps he was evaluating my competence. Or perhaps there's something else. Ethan stopped pacing, his expression serious. Olivia called before we left New York. She suggested you might have connections to our competitors. Maya's heart hammered against her ribs. That's absurd. Is it? He moved closer. Your linguistic skills are extraordinary. Your appearance in our orbit perfectly timed. And there's the curious fact that you share a common surname with someone who was deeply wronged by my family. Hayes is common enough. Not with your particular background. His gaze was penetrating. Who are you really, Maya Hayes? The moment stretched between them, taut with unspoken tensions. Maya weighed her options. Partial truth or complete deception. I'm exactly who I appear to be, she said finally. A linguistics student who couldn't afford to finish school. Someone trying to support a sick mother. Nothing more mysterious than that. Ethan studied her face, searching for deception. Whatever he saw seemed to satisfy him, because his expression softened. I believe you, he said quietly. But Olivia won't be. Be prepared. He moved toward the door, then hesitated. For what it's worth, I told her she was wrong about you. After he left, Maya sank onto the bed, trembling. Olivia was bringing information about her mother. Coleman was accelerating his demands. Mr. Thorne resembled her dead father. And Ethan was beginning to trust her, just as she was being forced to betray him. She pulled out the only photograph she had of her father, creased and faded from years, in her wallet. Daniel Hayes, according to her mother, had died in a car accident in New York. His face was partially obscured by the camera angle, but the resemblance to the glimpse she'd caught of Mr. Thorne was undeniable. Tomorrow Olivia would arrive, carrying unknown threats. But tonight Maya had a more immediate mission. She needed to get a clearer look at Mr. Thorne's face. She picked up her phone, heart pounding as she dialed Ryan Sterling's number back in New York. "The Temple of Heaven can wait," Olivia Prescott announced, dropping her designer handbag onto the hotel suite's marble counter. "I need a shower and real coffee before I pretend to care about ancient architecture." Maya maintained her professional smile, despite the Arctic chill emanating from Ethan's fiancé. Olivia had arrived at dawn, impeccably dressed despite the 12-hour flight, her diamond engagement ring catching the morning light like a warning beacon. "The corporate tour starts at 11 o'clock, Ethan reminded her, checking his watch. "That gives you 2 hours. Olivia's gaze flicked dismissively over Maya. "And why exactly is your translator joining us for sightseeing?" "Cultural context," Ethan replied smoothly. "Maya provides insights on business etiquette that have already proven invaluable." "Maya," Olivia repeated, testing the name like a suspicious food. "Tell me, how does a waitress become so fluent in Mandarin?" Maya met her gaze steadily. 6 years of university study and language exchange programs. Yet you didn't complete your degree. Family obligations took precedence. Olivia's smile didn't reach her eyes. "How fortunate that Ethan discovered your hidden talent." The undercurrent was clear. Olivia suspected her of something, perhaps everything. Before Maya could respond, Ethan intervened. "We should prepare for today's meetings, Maya. Could you review the technical amendments with me?" He gestured toward his suite's adjoining office. Once alone, he sighed. "I apologize for Olivia's behavior." "No need," Maya replied, maintaining professional distance. "Your fiancé is protective of your interests." "My interests?" Ethan echoed, something unreadable crossing his face. "Yes, I suppose she is." The door opened as Olivia entered, freshly showered and changed into a sleek business ensemble. "Don't let me interrupt," she said, though clearly that was her intention. "I just need to borrow Ethan for a moment." Maya nodded and stepped out, but not before hearing Olivia's whispered, "I found something about her mother you need to see." The Apex Global Corporate Tour proceeded with glacial politeness. Olivia attached herself to Ethan's arm, leaving Maya to translate from a careful distance. Mr. Jiang led them through research facilities and manufacturing floors, detailing innovations with evident pride. "Mr. Thorne has requested a private meeting with Ms. Hayes this afternoon," Jiang announced as they concluded the tour, "to discuss cultural nuances of the contract language." Ethan frowned. "I should be present for any contract discussions." Mr. Thorne specifically requested Ms. Hayes alone, Jiang insisted. "A brief cultural consultation only." Olivia's nails dug visibly into Ethan's arm. Maya could practically hear her suspicious thoughts. "It's considered disrespectful to decline such a request," Maya explained quietly. "I can record the meeting if that would ease concerns." "That won't be necessary," Ethan replied, though his expression remained troubled. "We trust your discretion." Olivia's smile suggested otherwise. The executive meditation garden where Maya was instructed to meet Mr. Thorne was an oasis of tranquility within the corporate complex. Ancient trees surrounded a small pavilion beside a koi pond, the city's cacophony reduced to a distant hum. Maya checked her phone one last time before entering. Ryan had texted back after their late-night call. "Be careful. If your suspicions are correct, nothing is coincidence. Trust no one until you know the full story." She tucked the phone away and stepped into the garden. A solitary figure sat in the pavilion, back turned, dark glasses in hand as he gazed at the water. "Mr. Thorne," she called softly in Mandarin. "You requested my presence." He didn't turn immediately. "The first time I held you," he said in English, his accent much lighter than in meetings, "you were 3 days old. Your mother was exhausted from labor, sleeping in the hospital bed. I sat by the window, just like this, and promised I would protect you both forever." Maya froze, her heart hammering against her ribs. "What did you say?" He turned, removing his dark glasses completely. The face that regarded her was older, lined with years of worry, but unmistakably the same as the faded photograph in her wallet. "Hello, Maya," he said softly. "I've waited 20 years to speak those words to you again." Her legs nearly gave out. You can't be him. My father died. There was a funeral. There was a closed casket and a grieving widow," he corrected gently. "But no body." Maya's mind reeled. "If you're really Daniel Hayes, my father, then why? Why fake your death? Why abandon us?" Pain crossed his features. "To keep you both alive." He gestured for her to sit beside him on the stone bench. When she remained standing, he sighed. "I understand your shock and anger. I've rehearsed this conversation countless times, never finding adequate words." He reached into his jacket, withdrawing an old photograph. Maya as a toddler, held in his arms, her mother Carol laughing beside them. "I kept this with me every day of our separation." The familiarity of the image, one she'd seen in her mother's keepsake box, shook her. This wasn't information a stranger could possess. "Explain," she demanded, finally sitting, maintaining distance. Daniel nodded. "I was an independent financial investigator specializing in international money laundering 20 years ago. I was contracted by a regulatory agency to examine suspicious transactions at several multinational corporations, including Sterling Enterprises." "Sterling Enterprises," Maya whispered. "Yes. What I discovered was a massive operation moving illegally obtained funds through shell companies into offshore accounts. When I prepared to present my findings, I received a warning. Photographs of you and your mother, taken through our apartment windows. The message was clear. Stay silent or lose my family." Maya's throat tightened. "So you disappeared instead. I staged my death to sever connections to you both, then fled to China. My ancestral home, but a place I'd never lived. I created a new identity, Marcus Thorne, built legitimate businesses, all while gathering evidence against those who threatened us." His eyes, so like her own, held decades of pain. "I've watched you from afar. Your graduation from high school, your university acceptance. You've been spying on us." Anger flared through her shock. "Protecting you," he corrected. "Anonymous tuition payments, medical specialists for your mother. Why do you think Carol received experimental treatments despite your financial situation?" Maya stood abruptly. "Alan Coleman. The treatments. That's your doing." Daniel frowned. "Coleman. Well, I arranged specialists through university research programs. I don't know any Coleman." Cold realization washed over her. Coleman had leveraged treatments her father had arranged, presenting them as his own benevolence, using them to manipulate her. "If you wanted to protect us, why bring me to Beijing now?" she demanded. "Why risk exposure after 20 years? Because Robert Sterling is dead, but his corruption lives on through his empire. When I learned Ethan Sterling needed a Mandarin interpreter, I saw an opportunity to place someone I trust inside his organization." Daniel's expression softened. "I never anticipated it would be you. When your name appeared on the delegation list, I nearly cancelled everything. But you didn't." "No. Because Sterling Enterprises is preparing to go public, with the Apex Global Partnership as its centerpiece. The same corrupt channels Robert established are being reactivated to launder money through this deal." His voice hardened. "I've spent 20 years building this company, creating a legitimate enterprise with enough power to finally expose the truth without endangering my family." Maya processed this information slowly. "You're saying Ethan is continuing his father's illegal operations?" "Someone at Sterling Enterprises certainly is. Whether Ethan knows is unclear." "What about my mother?" "She worked in their accounting department before we moved to Chicago." Daniel's expression darkened. "Carol discovered irregularities in the books. When she brought them to Robert's attention, she became a liability. They framed her for embezzlement, forced her to flee, and used her as a scapegoat when investigations came too close to the truth. She never told me any of this. To protect you. Knowledge is dangerous. He reached for her hand, which she reluctantly allowed. Maya, I never stopped being your father. Every decision, every sacrifice was for you and your mother. Tears blurred her vision. You could have found another way. Do you have any idea what we've been through? Mom working multiple jobs, getting sicker each year, me dropping out of school to care for her. I'm sorry, his voice broke. But we're running out of time. Olivia Prescott's arrival has accelerated events. She's been investigating your background. How do you know that? Because I've been investigating her. Olivia is Robert Sterling's goddaughter. Her father, Jonathan Prescott, was his partner in more than business. Maya's mind raced, connecting fragments. The upcoming merger isn't just about business, is it? It's personal for you. It's about justice, Daniel confirmed. And now that you're here, it's about family too. Help me finish what I started 20 years ago. Help me clear your mother's name and expose the truth. By betraying Ethan, Maya stated flatly. Daniel's expression was unreadable. By revealing the corruption within his company. Corruption he may well be perpetuating himself. Before she could respond, her phone vibrated with a message from Ethan. Meeting in 20 minutes. Where are you? Followed immediately by one from Coleman. Execute phase 1 tonight, or your mother faces consequences. Maya looked up at her father. A ghost resurrected, a stranger with familiar eyes, a man who had sacrificed everything yet nothing at all. I need time to think, she said finally. Daniel nodded, replacing his dark glasses. Tomorrow at the temple tour. Tell no one about this conversation. As she turned to leave, he added softly. Your mother named you Maya because it means illusion in some cultures, but great one in others. You were our second chance. Perhaps this is our third. Rain pounded against the windows of Ryan Sterling's Manhattan apartment as he spread documents across his dining table. 3 a.m. and sleep remained elusive. He'd been digging through Sterling Enterprises' financial archives for days, searching for patterns only half remembered from his teenage years. His phone buzzed with a text from halfway across the world. It's him. We need to talk. Secure line. Meh. Ryan quickly established an encrypted connection. You found your father, he said when her face appeared on screen. How did you know? The name in the files. Thorne. When you mentioned your father might have ties to China. He shrugged. What did he tell you? Maya's expression was haunted. That he faked his death to protect us from threats after discovering financial irregularities at Sterling Enterprises. He claims my mother was framed for embezzlement by your father and his partners. Ryan ran a hand through his disheveled hair. That aligns with what I found. He angled his camera toward the documents. These are internal audits from 2004, just before the scandal broke. Look at these transfers. Systematic, precise. Not the chaotic desperation the official report described. My father said someone at Sterling Enterprises is still using the same channels for money laundering through the Apex Global deal. Arthur, Ryan said immediately. He's been making unusual moves. Private calls, encrypted files. I've been tracking his digital footprint. Why would he continue after all these years? Power, money, or... Ryan hesitated. Protection. From what? From whoever was behind the original operation. Ryan shuffled through papers. Your father wasn't the only one investigating back then. Federal agencies had opened preliminary inquiries. Maya's eyes widened. Olivia told Ethan she found information about my mother. Olivia's father, Jonathan Prescott, was thick as thieves with mine. If there's dirty money, Prescott Investments has fingers in it. Ryan lowered his voice. What's your plan? I don't have one. I'm being pulled in 3 directions. Coleman is threatening my mother if I don't help sabotage the deal. My father wants me to expose Sterling Enterprises' corruption. And Ethan. She trailed off. Ethan trusts you, Ryan finished. Despite Olivia's suspicions. Yes. Ryan studied her troubled expression. There's more to it than trust. Maya didn't deny it. What about your mother, Carol Hayes? Is she safe? For now. The hospital has strict visitor protocols. Stay close to her. If things escalate. They already have. I need to know exactly what documents Olivia brought to Beijing. I'll try to find out. Be careful, Ryan. If Arthur suspects you're investigating. Same to you. Watch your back with Olivia. And Maya. Whatever my father did, Ethan isn't him. The connection ended, leaving Ryan alone with his suspicions and a growing sense of dread. Olivia Prescott arranged her documents precisely on the hotel suite's coffee table, files color-coded and annotated with her elegant handwriting. Arthur Vance sat opposite, his expression grim as he reviewed her findings. Carol Hayes's daughter, he muttered, working as our interpreter. It's too calculated to be coincidence. When I saw her name on the delegation list, I knew something was wrong. Olivia tapped a personnel file. The timing is suspicious, appearing just as the Apex Global deal develops and Ethan prepares to take the company public. Have you shown Ethan these records? Not everything. Just enough to raise concerns without revealing our particular interests. Olivia's smile was cold. He's developing feelings for her. It clouds his judgment. Arthur snorted. Ethan doesn't do feelings. He does obligations and strategies. Men can surprise you when the right woman appears. She selected another document. What concerns me is this connection between Apex Global and a shell corporation that received funds during the original scandal. Arthur's eyes narrowed. You've been investigating my financial arrangements. My father taught me to verify all connections before major investments. Olivia's tone remained pleasant, though her eyes hardened. Imagine my surprise when I discovered familiar patterns. Your father understood business necessities. Channels once established are valuable. Indeed. But Ethan doesn't share that understanding. If these connections were exposed, they won't be, Arthur stated flatly. I've managed these matters for 20 years without incident. Until Carol Hayes's daughter appeared, working for our chief competitor while translating our most sensitive negotiations. Olivia leaned forward. Alan Coleman is using her to sabotage the deal. I have proof of their communications. Arthur's composure slipped momentarily. Coleman. He's supposed to be handling the mother. Apparently, he's multitasking. Olivia passed him a surveillance photo of Maya meeting with Coleman in New York. We need to neutralize this threat immediately. What do you suggest? I've arranged for Carol Hayes to be transferred to a private facility upstate for specialized treatment. Officially, she'll be inaccessible, communication restricted. And the daughter? Olivia's smile didn't reach her eyes. I'll handle her personally tonight. Ethan. Sterling stared out at Beijing's illuminated skyline, city lights blurred by rain streaking the windows. Behind him, the suite's dining table was covered with contract drafts and market projections. Something's wrong with these production capacity figures, he muttered, more to himself than to Maya, who sat translating technical specifications across the table. They don't match the facility capabilities we toured. Maya glanced up, dark circles beneath her eyes betraying her exhaustion. Which section? Semiconductor yields. Page 47. He pushed the document toward her. The Mandarin version shows higher production capacity than our English draft. She examined both versions, frowning. You're right. There's a decimal discrepancy that changes the projection significantly. An honest translation error. No, she said slowly. This is deliberate. The difference is too precise. The contextual phrasing too careful. Ethan watched her expression, calculating. Is Apex Global trying to oversell their capabilities? Maya hesitated, torn between truth and the growing web of allegiances. Maybe. Or someone is manipulating both sides, Ethan finished, creating gaps that would cause the deal to collapse once implemented. Their eyes met in silent understanding. Olivia thinks you're working with Alan Coleman to sabotage the negotiations, Ethan said quietly. Maya's pulse quickened. And what do you think? I think nothing in this situation is as simple as it appears. He moved closer, lowering his voice. Arthur received a call during our meeting break. He thought I'd left, but I overheard him mention your mother's transfer to a private facility. Horror flooded her. What? When? Today. Something about specialized treatment protocols. That's not possible. I authorize all transfers unless. The realization hit like a physical blow. Coleman. He's moving her somewhere isolated. Ethan studied her reaction. Why would Coleman transfer your mother without authorization? Maya made a split-second decision. Because he's been using her medical treatment to blackmail me for information about Sterling Enterprises. Something dangerous flashed in Ethan's eyes. Blackmail? For how long? Since before you hired me. The confession brought unexpected relief. He threatened to discontinue her experimental medications if I didn't report on your negotiations. So Olivia was right. His expression hardened. Not entirely. I've been feeding Coleman minimal information, nothing that would truly compromise the deal. Maya leaned forward. Ethan, I need to contact my mother immediately if Coleman has moved her. She's not answering her phone, came Ryan's voice as the video call on Maya's laptop suddenly connected. His face appeared tight with urgency. 2 men claiming to be specialist physicians transferred her this morning. The hospital had authorization paperwork with your forged signature. Ethan stared at the screen. Ryan, you're involved in this. Hello, brother. Yes, I'm involved in unraveling 20 years of Sterling family secrets. Ryan's attention returned to Maya. I'm trying to trace the transport, but they've covered their tracks professionally. We need to find her, Maya said, panic rising. If Coleman is isolating her, it means he's escalating his plans. Ethan held up a hand. Slow down, both of you. Why is my brother helping investigate a situation he shouldn't know anything about? Because Carol Hayes was framed by our father, Ryan replied bluntly. And the same people who orchestrated that fraud are manipulating the Apex Global deal. Ethan's face drained of color. That's a serious accusation. With serious evidence. Ryan held up documents. I've been investigating since Maya arrived at Sterling Enterprises. The patterns are undeniable. You've been investigating our company behind my back? I've been searching for the truth about our family's legacy, Ryan corrected. Now, Carol Hayes's life may depend on how quickly we act. Ethan turned to Maya. His expression unreadable. How much haven't you told me? Before she could answer, a hotel security alert chimed on her phone. Unauthorized access attempt. Room 2714. Someone's trying to enter my room, Maya whispered. The adjoining door to the suite burst open, revealing Olivia, her face contorted with triumph. I've been listening to every word, she announced, holding up her phone. And I've recorded this entire conversation. Behind her stood Arthur Vance. His expression cold as winter. We have a problem to solve, he said simply. Your theatrics are unnecessary, Olivia, Ethan said. His voice dangerously calm as he moved to stand between Maya and the newcomers. Put the phone away. Theatrics. Olivia's perfectly arched eyebrow raised. I just recorded your precious interpreter confessing to corporate espionage. She's been feeding information to our biggest competitor. Under duress, Ethan corrected, which is a significant distinction. Arthur Vance stepped forward, his thin face expressionless. Regardless of motivation, Ms. Hayes has compromised the negotiations. This requires immediate action. On the laptop screen, Ryan's voice cut through the tension. Arthur, where is Carol Hayes? Arthur glanced dismissively at the screen. Ryan, always chasing conspiracy theories. Carol Hayes is receiving specialized care, away from those who might use her condition as leverage. You mean away from witnesses? Ryan countered. I've already alerted my contacts at the FBI about suspicious patient transfers across state lines. Arthur's composure flickered momentarily. An unfortunate waste of federal resources. Ethan surveyed the room. Olivia radiating vindictive triumph, Arthur maintaining his mask of corporate rectitude, Maya pale but defiant, Ryan watching intently. From the screen, the power dynamics shifted with each passing second. Everyone calm down, he ordered. Olivia, Arthur, I need a moment with Maya privately. Absolutely not, Olivia snapped. She'll manipulate you. It's what she's been doing since day one. Ethan's expression hardened. That wasn't a request. A silent battle of wills played out between them before Olivia finally relented. Fine. 5 minutes. Then we call hotel security and the authorities. After they reluctantly withdrew, Ethan closed the door and turned to Maya. Tell me everything. Now. Maya glanced at Ryan on the screen, who nodded encouragement. Coleman approached me 3 months ago. His clinic provides the experimental treatment keeping my mother alive. He discovered my linguistic abilities through his cousin who works at the Gilded Spoon and began pressuring me for information about any high-profile clients. So your employment at the restaurant wasn't coincidental. I've worked there for 2 years. Maya ran a hand through her hair. When you offered me the interpreter position, Coleman escalated his demands. Inside information on the Apex global negotiations in exchange for continuing my mother's treatment. And you agreed. I had no choice, she said quietly. But I've been feeding him useless information, nothing that would actually compromise the deal. While investigating your mother's connection to Sterling Enterprises, Ethan added, glancing at his brother on screen. Ryan interjected. Ethan, I've found documentation proving Carol Hayes was framed for the embezzlement. Dad and Arthur falsified evidence, then used her as a scapegoat when federal investigators started asking questions. That's a serious allegation against our father's legacy. Our father's legacy is built on laundered money and fraud, Ryan countered. And Arthur has continued the operation through carefully structured international deals, just like this one. Ethan turned back to Maya. And your father? Where does Daniel Hayes, or Marcus Thorne, fit into this narrative? Shock registered on her face. How did you? I make it my business to know everything about potential threats, he said simply. Mr. Thorne's unusual interest in you prompted my own investigation. Facial recognition software confirmed my suspicions, despite his efforts to obscure his features. Maya's mind raced. If you knew, why didn't you confront me? I needed to understand your motivations. His expression softened slightly. And contrary to what Olivia believes, I'm capable of seeing nuance in complex situations. Ryan's voice cut through their exchange. We can discuss trust issues later. Right now, we need to find Carol before Coleman or Arthur can use her as leverage. I'll handle Coleman, Ethan stated. He's operated his medical extortion scheme under the radar for too long. One call to the right authorities. No, Maya interrupted. Not until my mother is safe. If Coleman is arrested, his clinic staff might terminate her treatment protocols. Ethan considered this. Then we need to locate and secure her first. I've been tracking the transport vehicle, Ryan said. It headed north from Manhattan but then disappeared from traffic cameras. I'm working on accessing private security feeds along possible routes. I have contacts at the embassy who can expedite our return to New York, Ethan offered. Maya shook her head. We can't leave in the middle of negotiations without raising alarms. And Olivia and Arthur are watching my every move now. Olivia is easy to manage, Ethan said dismissively. Arthur is the concern. No, Ryan interjected. Olivia isn't just your jealous fiancé. Her father, Jonathan Prescott, was partners with Dad and Arthur in the original money laundering scheme. She's protecting the same interests. Ethan absorbed this information, his expression darkening. I need proof. Olivia's tablet, Ryan said. She keeps files on everything. It's how she maintains leverage in her business dealings. A knock at the door interrupted them. Time's up, Olivia called. Security is on their way. Ethan straightened his tie. I'll handle this. Ryan, keep searching. Maya, say nothing further without my presence. He opened the door to find Olivia and Arthur waiting with 2 hotel security officers. There's been a misunderstanding, Ethan announced smoothly. Miss Hayes has been working under my direct authorization to identify information leaks within our organization. The operation is sensitive and ongoing. Olivia's smug expression faltered. That's not. As CEO of Sterling Enterprises, Ethan continued, addressing the security officers, I take full responsibility for any confusion. There's no need for your services. After the confused officers departed, Olivia rounded on Ethan. What game are you playing? She admitted to working with Coleman under duress, as part of an investigation I've been monitoring. Ethan lied effortlessly. Did you really think I'd allow an unknown interpreter access to our most sensitive negotiations without thorough vetting? Arthur's eyes narrowed suspiciously. You never mentioned this operation to me. Compartmentalization was necessary. Given the nature of the leak, Ethan met his gaze steadily. I needed to determine who was vulnerable to external pressure. Olivia wasn't convinced. This is absurd. What about her connections to Carol Hayes, the woman who embezzled millions from your father's company? A relationship I was well aware of from the beginning, Ethan countered. Part of YMS. Hayes was the perfect candidate for this operation. The standoff continued until Arthur's phone buzzed. He checked it, frowning. We have a situation at the office. The contract drafts show critical discrepancies. The ones we discovered earlier, Maya confirmed, following Ethan's lead. Part of the pattern of sabotage I've been tracking. Arthur studied her with cold calculation. Perhaps we should continue this discussion at Apex Global Headquarters, where we can address these discrepancies directly. Agreed, Ethan said. Olivia, your presence at the legal review would be valuable. It was a transparent attempt to separate Olivia from Maya, but pride made it impossible for Olivia to refuse the acknowledgement of her expertise. Fine. But this isn't finished, she warned Maya. As they prepared to leave, Maya's phone buzzed with a message. She angled it away from Olivia's prying eyes to read the text from an unknown number. Temple of Heaven, East Pavilion, 1 hour. Come alone. Her father, summoning her while her mother's life hung in the balance half a world away. I need to collect the translation references from my room, she announced. I'll accompany you, Olivia volunteered immediately. Actually, Ethan interjected, I need your insights on the legal language before we arrive. Arthur can escort Miss Hayes. When Olivia reluctantly left with Ethan, Arthur turned to Maya with a thin smile that didn't reach his eyes. Shall we? He gestured toward the door. Alone in the elevator with the man who had framed her mother and possibly arranged her abduction, Maya maintained a calm facade while adrenaline coursed through her veins. You know, Arthur said conversationally as they descended, I've always believed that family loyalty is the most powerful force in business. Don't you agree, Hayes? The threat behind his words was unmistakable. Absolutely, she replied, meeting his gaze. That's why I find it interesting that you've positioned yourself as a surrogate family member to the Sterlings all these years. His expression hardened. Not surrogate. Essential. The elevator doors opened to the lobby. I need 20 minutes to gather my materials, Maya said. 10, Arthur countered. I'll wait here. As she walked away, her phone vibrated with a message from Ryan. Found her. Facility in upstate New York. Working on extraction plan. Bolo time. Simultaneously, another text arrived from her father. Running out of time. Temple or airport. Choice. Maya glanced back at Arthur, then at the hotel's side exit leading to the street. Her mother in an unknown facility in New York. Her father waiting at the temple with answers and evidence. Ethan navigating treacherous corporate waters with Olivia. The moment of decision had arrived. The Temple of Heaven stood illuminated against Beijing's night sky, ancient blue-tiled roofs gleaming under strategic lighting that emphasized its celestial significance. Tourist crowds had thinned at this late hour, leaving only a few visitors wandering the sacred grounds. Maya pulled her jacket tighter against the evening chill, constantly checking over her shoulder. Evading Arthur had been surprisingly simple: a room service order to his phone, followed by a swift exit through the hotel's service entrance while he was distracted. She'd have 15 minutes at most before he realized she'd fled. The East Pavilion stood removed from the temple's main structures, partially hidden by ornamental trees. As she approached, a figure emerged from the shadows. Daniel Hayes, her father, dressed in an unassuming dark suit rather than his CEO attire. "You came," he said, relief evident in his voice. "My mother has been taken," Maya replied without preamble. "Moved to an isolated facility by the same people you claim framed her 20 years ago." Alarm crossed his features. "When?" "Today. While you were trying to manipulate me into exposing Sterling Enterprises," she accused. "What exactly is your endgame here? Justice, revenge, or just protecting your business interests?" "Protecting my family," he insisted. "Which means we need to accelerate our timeline." He withdrew a flash drive from his pocket. "This contains evidence of Robert Sterling's original money laundering operation and Arthur Vance's continuation of it through the proposed merger." Maya didn't take it. "How do I know you're not just sabotaging a competitor?" "Because I'm leaving with you tonight, back to America to face whatever consequences come." Determination hardened his features. "I've spent 20 years building evidence and power. It's time to use both." "Why now?" "Because they've taken Carol." His voice cracked slightly. "And because my daughter is caught in their web." Maya studied him, this stranger who shared her blood, who claimed 2 decades of silent protection. "Ryan Sterling has located my mother. He's working on extracting her safely." Surprise registered on Daniel's face. "Robert's younger son. He's involved. He's been investigating his father's legacy. He found documentation proving Mom was framed." She hesitated. "Ethan knows too. Some of it, at least." "Ethan Sterling cannot be trusted," Daniel countered immediately. "He's Robert's son, groomed by Arthur Vance from childhood. You don't know him." "I know the company he leads continues laundering money through international acquisitions." Daniel held out the flash drive again. "The evidence is irrefutable." Maya slowly took it. "What's your plan?" "A press conference in New York 3 days from now. Public exposure of all parties involved. Sterling Enterprises, Prescott Investments, Coleman Pharmaceuticals. Full disclosure of the 20-year fraud." He checked his watch. "Our flight leaves in 2 hours. Private jet, direct to JFK. And my mother. My associates are already triangulating the facility's location using Ryan's information. By the time we land, we'll have her secured." Maya's phone vibrated. "Ethan." She silenced it without answering. "You need to decide, Maya," Daniel pressed. "We won't get another chance like this." The Apex Global Headquarters Executive Conference Room crackled with tension. Ethan stood at the head of the table, shirt sleeves rolled up as he examined contract discrepancies Olivia had flagged. His focus appeared absolute, but internally alarm bells were ringing. Maya wasn't answering his calls, and Arthur had reported her unexpected departure from the hotel. "These semiconductor production projections have been deliberately altered," Olivia pronounced, highlighting sections on her tablet. "Someone with access to both versions of the contract modified key deliverables to create future breach conditions." Ethan nodded, buying time. "And the delivery schedules?" "Similarly manipulated." The Chinese version commits to timelines impossible to meet. She looked up, triumph in her eyes. Exactly the sabotage I warned you about. The question remains, who modified them? Ethan kept his tone neutral. These changes would damage both parties. Olivia's scarlet lips curved into a knowing smile. Someone who benefits from the deal's eventual collapse. Someone working with Alan Coleman. Perhaps. The conference room door opened as Arthur entered. His expression thunderous. She's gone. Define gone, Ethan demanded. Not in her room, not in the hotel. Security footage shows her leaving through a service entrance 30 minutes ago. Arthur placed his phone on the table. And this just arrived at the front desk for you. An envelope addressed to Ethan Sterling, in feminine handwriting. He opened it to find a hotel key card and a note. Storage room B, basement level. Come alone if you want the truth. Meh. Olivia appeared over his shoulder. Obviously a trap. Or an opportunity to get answers, Ethan countered, already moving toward the door. I'm coming with you, Olivia insisted. As am I, Arthur added. Ethan turned. His expression brooking no argument. You'll both remain here and continue reviewing the contracts. This is between me and Ms. Hayes. Before they could protest further, he was gone, taking the elevator to the basement level of the Apex Global building. Storage room B was tucked at the end of a utilitarian corridor, its keycard panel glowing red in the dimness. Ethan scanned the area for surveillance cameras before swiping the card. The lock clicked, and he pushed the door open uncautiously. Inside, instead of Maya, he found Ryan Sterling on a laptop screen, a video call already connected. Hello, brother, Ryan greeted grimly. We don't have much time. Ethan closed the door behind him. Where's Maya? With her father, headed to the airport. But that's not why I arranged this meeting. Ryan held up documents. These were in Arthur's private safe at Sterling Tower. Bank transfers connecting our father, Jonathan Prescott, and Alan Coleman to shell companies that received the funds Carol Hayes was accused of embezzling. Ethan examined the document images filling the screen. How did you access Arthur's safe? I've known the combination since I was 16. Arthur always underestimated me. Ryan's expression hardened. The important thing is what these prove. Our father framed Carol Hayes when she discovered his money-laundering operation. Arthur continued it after his death, with Olivia's knowledge, if not participation. These could be forgeries, Ethan said, though his tone lacked conviction. Cross-reference the account numbers with our acquisition records from 2004 to present. The pattern is unmistakable. Ryan leaned closer to the camera. Ethan, I know how much father's legacy means to you, but it's built on crime, and Arthur has made you complicit through the Apex Global deal. Ethan processed this information, decades of family history reshaping themselves in his mind. Why would Arthur risk continuing after all these years? Because legitimate revenue wasn't enough to maintain the lifestyle and power Robert established. The laundering channels became an addiction, one Arthur managed while grooming you to be the respectable face of Sterling Enterprises. The pieces aligned with disturbing clarity. Arthur's insistence on handling certain financial aspects personally. His resistance to updated compliance protocols. His unusually close relationship with Jonathan Prescott despite their apparent business rivalries. What about Coleman? Ethan asked. Originally just a doctor who treated Robert. Over time, he became a key player, using his medical practice to launder funds through experimental treatments. When Carol's daughter appeared in his orbit, he saw an opportunity to protect their operation. Ethan checked his watch. What's Maya planning? Public exposure. Her father has compiled 20 years of evidence against everyone involved. They're flying to New York tonight to hold a press conference after securing Carol's safety. Leaving me to handle the fallout alone, Ethan noted bitterly. Ryan's expression softened. She tried to tell you the truth multiple times, but your loyalty to father's memory made you resistant. And you? Where does your loyalty lie, brother? With the truth. Always has been. Ryan glanced off screen. I have to go. Carol's facility has exterior surveillance I'm working to access. You need to decide quickly which side of history you want to stand on. The screen went dark, leaving Ethan alone with impossible choices. His phone buzzed with Olivia's name on the display. Simultaneously, a news alert appeared. Sterling Enterprises stock fluctuates ahead of historic Chinese merger. Ethan pocketed the phone without answering and exited the storage room, mind made up. He had 40 minutes to reach the airport before the last international flight departed. The private terminal at Beijing Capital International Airport hummed with quiet efficiency. As Daniel Hayes completed final preparations for departure, Maya stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, watching commercial aircraft take off into the night sky. Each set of lights representing hundreds of lives moving between worlds, just as she had been doing since discovering her father alive. We board in 15 minutes, Daniel announced, approaching with 2 passports. Everything is arranged. Maya took her passport silently, still processing her decision to leave with him. What about Ethan? He deserves to know what's happening. Ethan Sterling had every opportunity to investigate his family's criminal enterprises. He chose willful ignorance. Daniel's tone softened. I understand your feelings for him complicate this situation. I don't have feelings for him, Maya protested automatically. Her father's knowing smile was eerily familiar, the same expression her mother wore when detecting an obvious lie. A father knows these things, even after 20 years of absence. Before she could respond, her phone chimed with a message from Ryan. Security feed accessed. Confirmed Carol's location. Rural medical facility outside Albany. Extraction team assembled. Relief flooded through her. They found her. Ryan's team is moving in. Daniel nodded approvingly. Once she's secured, we'll release the evidence through multiple channels. By this time tomorrow, Sterling Enterprises and Prescott Investments will be facing federal investigations, and Ethan's career will be destroyed, Maya said quietly. He can rebuild from truth. It's the only foundation that lasts. Daniel checked his watch. We should proceed to the gate. As they gathered their minimal luggage, a commotion erupted at the terminal entrance. Maya turned to see Ethan Sterling striding through security, flashing credentials that parted staff before him like a corporate Moses. He found us, she whispered. Daniel tensed. How? It doesn't matter. Maya moved toward Ethan, intercepting him before he reached her father. Ethan stopped before her, slightly breathless. Ryan showed me the evidence. And I'm not my father. His gaze was intense, determined. I want to help expose the truth. The complete truth, including my own unwitting complicity. Behind them, Daniel approached cautiously. A convenient conversion when cornered, Mr. Sterling. Ethan turned to him. Mr. Hayes, or should I call you Mr. Thorne? I understand you've been planning this moment for 20 years. Justice takes patience. So does rehabilitation. Ethan held out his hand. I propose we work together rather than against each other. Sterling Enterprises has resources that could expedite your wife's recovery and strengthen your evidence against the truly guilty parties. Daniel did not take the offered hand. Why would I trust Robert Sterling's son? Because I'm offering to stand beside you at the press conference, acknowledging the crimes committed in my family's name while committing to restitution. Ethan's expression remained steady. And because your daughter believes I'm capable of change. Maya looked between the two men, one who shared her blood but remained a stranger, one who had earned her trust despite every reason for suspicion. We need to board, Daniel said finally. If you're sincere, meet us in New York. I'm coming with you, Ethan insisted. Olivia and Arthur were discussing damage control measures when I left. If they suspect I've aligned with you, they'll accelerate their contingency plans. The final boarding call echoed through the terminal as 3 lives balanced on the edge of transformation, the weight of 20 years of secrets hanging in the balance. 14 hours across the international dateline, and reality itself seemed altered. Maya stared out the private jet's window as New York's iconic skyline emerged through morning mist. Beside her, Ethan reviewed evidence files on a tablet, his intense focus unbroken for hours. Across the aisle, Daniel conducted hushed phone conversations, orchestrating the elaborate chess game they'd committed to playing. "Update from Ryan," Ethan announced, checking his phone. "Operation successful. Carol is secure at a safe house upstate. Medical team in attendance." Relief washed through Maya. "Is she all right?" "Disoriented but stable. They administered her regular treatments." Ethan hesitated. Coleman arrived at the facility shortly after Ryan's team extracted her. "He's now aware the situation has escalated." Daniel looked up sharply. "Which means Arthur and Olivia know as well." "Undoubtedly." Ryan reports unusual activity at Sterling Tower. Files being moved, servers taken offline. Ethan's jaw tightened. "They're destroying evidence." "Too late," Daniel said with quiet confidence. "I've spent 20 years collecting redundant proof across multiple jurisdictions." The pilot's voice interrupted. "Beginning our descent to JFK. Please secure any loose items." As the plane banked toward the airport, Maya felt the weight of the moment. In a few hours, they would stand before press cameras, exposing 2 decades of financial crimes that would shatter reputations, trigger federal investigations, and irrevocably alter all their lives. "Are you ready for this?" Ethan asked quietly, noticing her expression. "To clear my mother's name." "Yes." Maya lowered her voice. "To see you dismantle your family legacy." "I'm not sure. Some legacies deserve dismantling." His hand covered hers briefly. "I'd rather build something new on truth than preserve something corrupt." The gesture wasn't lost on Daniel, whose expression remained carefully neutral as he watched their interaction. "Our car will be waiting," he said as the plane touched down. "The press conference is scheduled for 7 this evening at the Grand. Security is already in place." Ethan nodded. "I need to stop at Sterling Tower first." "Out of the question," Daniel objected immediately. "Arthur will be waiting." "Precisely why I need to go. My absence from Beijing will have triggered contingency protocols. If I don't make an appearance, security lockdowns will prevent us accessing certain records crucial to your case." "It's too risky," Maya argued. "It's necessary," Ethan countered. "I need 15 minutes in my office to transfer specific authentication keys and override the system purges Arthur has undoubtedly initiated." Daniel and Maya exchanged concerned glances. "You're asking us to trust that you won't warn them," Daniel stated bluntly. "I'm asking you to trust that I want justice as much as you do." Ethan's gaze was unwavering. "My entire life has been built on my father's lies. I need to be part of dismantling them." After a tense silence, Daniel reluctantly agreed. "Fine. 15 minutes. We'll wait in the car. If you're not back, we proceed without you." The limestone facade of Sterling Tower gleamed in the morning sunlight as their car pulled to the curb. Ethan straightened his tie, still rumpled from the flight, and turned to Maya. "If I'm not back in 15 minutes, we leave," she finished. "I know." Something unspoken passed between them. Concern, hope, possibilities that might never have a chance to develop. "For what it's worth," he said quietly, "meeting you was the best thing that happened to Sterling Enterprises, even if it led here." Before she could respond, he was gone, striding through the revolving doors with the confident bearing of a CEO returning from a routine business trip. Inside the lobby, security guards nodded respectfully. The express elevator required his fingerprint, delivering him to the executive floor in seconds. Everything appeared normal, but Ethan detected subtle signs of disruption. Computer screens being hastily locked, conversations abruptly halting as he passed. His office door stood ajar, light spilling from within. Ethan paused, listening to the familiar voice of Arthur Vance speaking in urgent tones. Must terminate all connections immediately. Sterling is compromised by a waitress and a ghost. Olivia's dismissive reply carried through the gap. We've weathered worse. You don't understand the depth of Hayes's evidence, Arthur snapped. He's been building this case for 20 years. Ethan pushed the door open. Good morning. They froze. Arthur beside the open safe. Olivia perched on the edge of the desk. Shock registered briefly before their professional masks slipped back into place. Ethan. Olivia recovered first, moving to embrace him. We've been so worried when Maya disappeared. He sidestepped her approach. Save it, Olivia. I know everything. Arthur carefully closed the safe. His movements deliberately casual. Everything about what, exactly? The money laundering operation my father established. The one you continued after his death. Carol Hayes's framing. The offshore accounts. Coleman's involvement. Ethan moved to his desk, blocking Olivia's access to his computer. All of it. Ethan. Olivia's tone turned conciliatory. You're exhausted from travel. These are serious accusations based on manipulated evidence from people with obvious vendettas against your family. Exactly, Arthur agreed smoothly. The Hayes girl has orchestrated an elaborate scheme with this imposter claiming to be her father. Daniel Hayes is her father, Ethan interrupted. DNA confirmed. And Ryan has independently verified the evidence trail. He activated his computer with a fingerprint scan. The press conference is at 7 o'clock. I'll be standing with them. The pretense of civility evaporated. You would betray your father's legacy. Arthur's voice turned cold. Everything I've built for you. You built it on fraud and exploitation, Ethan replied, fingers flying across the keyboard as he initiated file transfers and override protocols. You framed an innocent woman, forced her into hiding, and continued stealing for 20 years under the guise of protecting the Sterling name. Your father understood the necessities of maintaining power, Arthur countered. Robert wasn't constrained by naive idealism. My father was a criminal, Ethan stated flatly. And I won't protect his crimes any longer. Olivia moved toward the door. I need to call my father. Jonathan already knows, Ethan said without looking up. His accounts were frozen an hour ago. Federal agents are currently at Prescott Investments with warrants. Arthur's face drained of color. What have you done? What should have been done 20 years ago? Ethan completed the file transfer and stood. I've preserved the evidence you were trying to destroy and revoked your system access. It's over, Arthur. You ungrateful. Arthur lunged forward, reaching inside his jacket. Olivia shouted. Arthur, don't. The glint of metal. A small handgun extracted from a shoulder holster. Ethan reacted instantly, moving to disarm him. But Arthur was surprisingly strong for his age, desperation lending him power. They struggled, the gun between them as Olivia screamed for security. The weapon discharged with a deafening crack in the confined space. Both men froze. In the car outside, Maya checked her watch for the dozenth time. 14 minutes. Daniel's expression was grim. He's not coming back. One more minute, she insisted. Her phone buzzed. Ryan calling. They're destroying evidence, he reported without preamble. Emergency file purges initiated from Arthur's terminal 3 minutes ago. Ethan is up there now, Maya replied. He said he could stop it. He can't. Not without my help. The authentication requires dual executive approval. Maya made a split-second decision. I'm going in. Before Daniel could protest, she was out of the car, rushing through the lobby toward the elevators. A commotion near the security desk, guards mobilizing, radio chatter about a disturbance on the executive floor. Maya bypassed the main elevators for the service lift her security badge could access. As the doors closed, she heard an announcement. Security alert, executive level. Medical response team required. Her heart hammered against her ribs as the elevator crawled upward. When it finally opened, chaos greeted her. Staff huddled in doorways, security personnel rushing toward the CEO's office. Maya pushed through the crowd, dread building with each step. Outside Ethan's office, Olivia stood trembling, mascara streaking down her cheeks. "He just snapped," she was telling the security chief. "Arthur pulled a gun." Maya shouldered past her into the office and stopped cold. Blood pooled on the imported marble floor. Arthur lay motionless near the desk, a security guard applying pressure to his shoulder wound. And Ethan stood by the window, his white shirt crimson-stained, phone in hand as he calmly issued directives. "Ethan!" Maya rushed to him. "Are you hurt?" He looked up, surprise registering through his focused expression. "Superficial. The bullet grazed me after passing through Arthur's shoulder." He nodded toward the fallen CFO. "He'll survive to face charges." Security personnel and medical staff filled the room, attending to Arthur while documenting the scene. Through the chaos, Olivia watched Maya with venomous hatred. "This is your fault," she hissed. "You and your criminal family destroyed everything." Ethan stepped between them. "Olivia, enough. Your father is being questioned by federal agents as we speak. I suggest you contact your lawyer." As security escorted a still protesting Olivia from the office, Ethan turned back to Maya. "You were supposed to wait in the car," he admonished gently. Ryan called. "The authentication. Already completed." He winced slightly as he moved, blood seeping through his shirt. "Though your timing is impeccable. We should go before the police arrive and complicate matters." Maya helped him toward the service elevator, supporting his weight as adrenaline began to fade. In the descending car, he leaned against the wall, suddenly pale. "Why did you really come up?" he asked quietly. Maya met his gaze. "I couldn't leave you behind." Something shifted between them. Understanding, possibility, the fragile beginning of trust that might someday become more. The elevator doors opened to reveal Daniel waiting with their driver, expression taut with concern. "What happened?" he demanded, noting Ethan's bloodied shirt. "Arthur made his choice," Ethan replied simply. "And I made mine." As they hurried to the waiting car, sirens wailed in the distance, the first notes of a symphony of consequences 20 years in the making. 1 year later, spring sunshine warmed the granite headstone bearing Carol Hayes's name. Fresh tulips, her favorite, brightened the otherwise solemn marker. Maya knelt to brush away fallen blossoms, her fingers lingering on the engraved dates that encompassed a life of sacrifice, courage, and unspoken truths. "I still think she would have preferred the other epitaph," Daniel Hayes said, standing respectfully behind his daughter. "The truth always finds its way to the light." Maya smiled sadly. The hospital chaplain thought, "beloved mother and wife, reunited in eternity," was more appropriate. "The chaplain didn't know your mother designed complex accounting protocols to track money laundering schemes," Daniel countered with gentle humor. "Or that she spent 20 years protecting a daughter while carrying secrets that would eventually topple a corporate empire." They stood in companionable silence. The weight of the past year's events settled around them like a familiar cloak, sometimes heavy but no longer suffocating. The night of the press conference had unfolded differently than any of them anticipated. They'd arrived at the Grand Hotel, Ethan still wearing his blood-stained shirt beneath a borrowed jacket, a hastily applied bandage concealing his wound. The assembled journalists had fallen silent at the unlikely trio entering together. Ethan Sterling of Sterling Enterprises, the supposedly deceased Daniel Hayes, revealed as Marcus Thorne, and Maya Hayes, until recently an unknown linguistics student and waitress. The federal agents waiting discreetly in the wings had been Daniel's arrangement. The formal statement Ethan delivered, admitting corporate malfeasance under previous leadership, had been his own choice. The evidence presented, meticulously compiled documentation of 2 decades of financial crimes spanning 3 companies, had been irrefutable. What none of them expected was the call from the secure facility where Carol was recovering. The stress of the abduction, transfer, and rescue had triggered a massive cardiac event. By the time they reached her side, monitors displayed the grim flat lines of endings. Carol Hayes had lived just long enough to see her husband again, to whisper 20 years of stored words into his ear, to place her daughter's hand into Ethan's with a knowing glance that conveyed both blessing and expectation. She had not lived to see the media frenzy that followed their revelations, the federal indictments against Arthur Vance, Alan Coleman, and Jonathan Prescott, or Olivia's immunity deal in exchange for testimony against her father and former associates. Ryan's car just pulled up, Daniel noted, interrupting Maya's reflections. She turned to see Ryan Sterling approaching across the cemetery lawn, carrying a small bouquet of his own. 1 year had matured him from the somewhat idealistic younger son into the interim CEO, who had guided Sterling Enterprises through its darkest days. "Sorry I'm late," he called. Board meeting ran long. "The ethics committee has questions about the foundation bylaws." "They always do," Maya replied with a knowing smile. The Carol Hayes Foundation had been established with recovered funds from the offshore accounts. Her vindication and legacy combined. Its mission was twofold: providing linguistic scholarships to underprivileged students and funding research into rare cardiac conditions like the one that had taken her life. Ryan placed his flowers beside Maya's. "She would be proud of what you've built." "What we've built," she corrected, including both men in her glance. "None of this happens without either of you." "Or Ethan," Ryan added pointedly. At the mention of his name, Maya's hand instinctively moved to her abdomen, a gesture not lost on her father, whose eyebrows rose slightly. "Is there news you'd like to share?" Daniel asked carefully. Ryan looked between them, suddenly understanding. "I should give you two a moment." "No, stay," Maya said quickly. "Your family too." She took a deep breath. "Yes, I'm pregnant. 12 weeks. Ethan and I were waiting until the first trimester passed to announce it." Daniel's expression softened into wonder. "A grandchild. The first Sterling Hayes," Ryan added with a grin. "The ultimate merger." Maya laughed despite the solemnity of their surroundings. "Ethan is telling the board today, which explains why your meeting ran long. He wanted to ensure the foundation's funding wouldn't be affected by any conservative backlash." "The board knows better than to challenge Ethan these days," Ryan assured her. "After he sacrificed his family name, personal fortune, and nearly his life to expose the truth, they're content to follow his ethical leadership." The restructuring of Sterling Enterprises had been painful but necessary. Ethan had stepped down temporarily during the federal investigation, turned state's evidence against former associates, and used his personal assets to establish victim restitution funds. When he returned as CEO 6 months later, it was to a company transformed, smaller, more transparent, and committed to a code of ethics that honored Carol Hayes's memory rather than Robert's tarnished legacy. "Have you decided where you'll raise the child?" Daniel asked, his tone carefully neutral, though his preference remained obvious. "We're staying in New York," Maya confirmed. "Ethan needs to be near the company, and I'm committed to the foundation work here." She smiled at her father's poorly concealed disappointment. "But we'll visit Beijing regularly. This child deserves to know both sides of their heritage." Daniel nodded, accepting the compromise. His return to America had resulted in a suspended sentence in exchange for cooperation with international financial crime investigations. While legally restricted from returning to China for 5 years, he'd established a New York office for his legitimate business interests, allowing him to remain close to the daughter he'd sacrificed everything to protect. "We should head back," Ryan suggested, checking his watch. "Ethan is probably finishing with the board about now." As they walked toward the cemetery gates, Maya paused for one last look at her mother's grave. "Do you think she knew at the end that it was all worth it? The running, the secrets, the separation. All to protect the truth until it could finally come to light." "She knew," Daniel said with quiet certainty. "When we had those final moments together, she told me she'd do it all again. Every sacrifice, every hardship. Because it led to you standing strong, finally free from the shadows of the past. Not just me, Maya corrected, her hand returning to her stomach. All of us. The next generation who won't carry our burdens. Ryan held the cemetery gate open for them. Ethan likes to say that empires built on lies eventually collapse, but those founded on truth can weather any storm. Poetic for a businessman, Daniel noted with a hint of his old skepticism. He's changed, Maya defended. We all have. The Sterling Enterprises lobby had been redesigned during the company's transformation. Gone were the imposing marble and steel, replaced by warm woods and abundant natural light. The security guards greeted Maya by name as she made her way to the executive elevator. Ethan's office door stood open, sunlight streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows that had once framed Arthur Vance's desperate act of violence. The bloodstains on the floor were long gone, replaced by sustainable bamboo that symbolized the company's new direction. Strong yet flexible, rapidly renewable, forward-looking. Ethan stood at the window, his back to the door, phone pressed to his ear. The foundation funding is non-negotiable, he was saying firmly. It remains our first financial priority, regardless of quarterly projections. He sensed her presence and turned, his expression softening immediately. The conversation concluded quickly thereafter. How did it go? He asked, setting the phone aside. At the cemetery. Peaceful, Maya replied, moving into his embrace. I told them about the baby. Ethan's hand joined hers protectively over their growing child. And your father didn't immediately suggest Chinese citizenship applications. He was remarkably restrained, she laughed. Though I suspect he's already researching Mandarin immersion preschools in Manhattan. Ethan smiled, the expression transforming his once severe features. The past year had etched new lines around his eyes, silver threading prematurely at his temples, but the rigid corporate mask had given way to something more authentic, more human. The board approved the expanded foundation budget, he reported. And the ethics committee signed off on the final safeguards against any future malfeasance. Sterling Enterprises will never again be used for anything less than completely transparent business. My mother would be proud, Maya said softly. Of all of us. Through the window, Manhattan stretched before them, a city of ambition and possibility, where their unlikely story had unfolded through chance encounters, painful revelations, and ultimately, the healing power of truth finally brought to light. Ethan's fingers intertwined with hers. Ready to build something new? Maya nodded, thinking of her mother's words that had become their family motto. The truth can take time, but it always finds its way into the light. Their child would be born into that light, free from the shadows that had defined their own lives for so long. Ready, she confirmed, as they turned together toward the future.